Virtue, official partner of Sunderland AFC.
He shoots! Oh! What a hit!
Sport, it's not just a game. It's in your DNA. Like us, you live and breathe every moment. You dissect, navigate, and analyze. At SpreadX, we bring you a world of betting, where flexibility and precision are at your fingertips. With real-time analysis across all devices, wherever you are. Enjoy sports betting that's data-driven. Next level action. SpreadX, it's in our DNA.
opportunity here. Oh, how cool is that? How cool is that? From Chris Rigg. Banningham, 25 yards, lines it up and drills it into the back of the net.
Virtue, official partner of Sunderland AFC.
See if they can test Newcastle one more time here with Altidore. Stays down, that's ball.
He shoots! Oh! What a hit!
Good afternoon, everyone, and it's a special bank holiday Easter weekend. Welcome to the Stadium of Light. There's another 3 p.m. kickoff. This time it's Sunderland versus Blackburn Rovers. Myself and Danny are on the gantry because we're expecting rain. It hasn't rained just yet. In fact, the conditions behind us look absolutely beautiful for a game of football, don't they, Danny?
Yeah, well, let's give it later on, I think, hasn't it? But just to make sure we don't get soaked, we're up here, yeah. But no, it's decent conditions, as you say, this moment in time. Looks like, hopefully, this afternoon we can get back on track a little bit. We'll get through the changes. Been a lot of them for Regis Labrie this afternoon. Just trying to get the lads going again before we obviously make our way into the playoffs.
Let's have a look at those changes then. Danny's already alluded to it. This might be the most changes we've made all season.
Certainly is, yeah. Do you know what? I expected it in a way, but at the same time I was thinking with us not sort of producing decent performances in the last few, maybe he would try and go a little bit stronger, but obviously you can see he's giving one or two a rest there on the bench. Yeah, of course we've still got a couple of games left before the playoffs, and it's an opportunity for these lads coming in. And Joe Anderson, your prime example really, he struggled to get game time since he's really been at the club. It's an opportunity for him this afternoon. I think it's his home debut in the league, isn't it, for us? But the four that retain their place is probably easier. So Tommy Watson stays in on that left flank, the two centre-backs as they were, and Anthony Patterson. Other than that, we'll run through the changes. Alan Brown coming in again, filling in at full-back. Obviously, Trey suspended after that straight red. Samed coming in for Dan Neil, sitting there in front of the centre-backs. Job coming back in with Harrison Jones again. Alexic, I think he'll play off that right-hand side. Again, go back to Norwich. It's not his favourite position, but we think he's going to start over on that right-hand side. And then top end of the pitch, Wilson Isidore comes in for the man with the goal of the season contender. Well, yeah, Elijah Mayenda.
We'll look back at that very soon, but that is your changes. Lots to digest, and we will start the programme by looking back at Sunderland's previous game on Good Friday. It wasn't so good from a Sunderland point of view. In fact, it was a terrible start, but actually, the very start was okay.
Yeah, it was actually, yeah, the first 5 minutes before the sending off incident, it wasn't too bad. Some good build-up play there, and see Tommy Watson involved. It just gets away from Chris Rigg, and then he can't quite sort his feet out, and to say, gets it wrong there. We've all done that as players, haven't we? And here's the incident now. We've not quite seen the actual clip from where we perhaps could have seen the build-up, where ball over the top. Luke doesn't deal with it. He's usually pretty decent in those situations, Luke, and just cushioning headers and reading the flight of the ball, but he gets a little bit tight on Naki Wells. Ball's over the top, and again, I know it's been a disputed one, isn't it? Was there any contact? Was there not? And then only Trey knows and Naki Wells really. But you see them time and time again. It's just a little clip of the ankles, and then he goes over. And then obviously, is it a goal-scoring opportunity? Is he a little bit wide? It all comes into play. But listen, the ref deems it a red card. So I think, is it 2 games he's got, Trey? I think he has, isn't he? Is it just the one? Just the one, yeah. So he comes back in, and you know he deserves a little break anyway. He probably would have had a rest today, looking at what Regis has gone with anyway. So yeah, he'll sit this one out and charge his batteries. But here's the goal anyway. So yeah, man sent off. We're up against it, sitting deep, and look where he picks it up there. He's got 4 or 5
about 10 yards outside his own penalty area.
And those two obviously both sliding together. He skips by them two, and then they're backtracking. You see they don't want to commit there. Is it Viner? I think it is, isn't it? Yep. Backing off. He's trying to keep him on his right foot there. You see, once he knows he doesn't want to get in a foot race with him because Mayenda's sharp. And then the others are trying to get back in. And it's Jason Knight, the skipper, can maybe do a little bit more to help him out. He just sort of canters back in and then realises, I'm wrong side, I can't make a challenge. You see him there, the 12 now, just coasting, and then all of it, well, no, can't, wrong side, I'm going to bring him down, give a penalty away, and it's a lovely finish, just reverses it. Wrong foot's the goalkeeper. And then, well, you certainly say against the run of play, of course it is, because they had all the ball, and then, but that's what he's capable of, Elijah Mayenda. We've seen it throughout the season. Once he has some grass to run into, he puts the fear in defenders.
He does, and he's got that in his locker, as you said, Danny. And you know, whenever he's been involved this season, and his goal tally's pretty good as well for his first proper season as well. He always looks to make things happen. That was the reaction back in Quinn Sports while we were doing a beam back. Yeah, and it was a thankless task really playing up front for the 85 minutes or so.
Well, it was, yeah. You can see where he is now, 10-15 yards. Not where you want your centre forward, of course, but we're obviously lost the man there, and you know, 8, 9, 10 bodies generally in and around our 18-yard box, and then throwing bodies in the way, getting the blocks in, and there's that one that was disallowed. It's a good call, as we say, from the linesman on the far side. You'll see it now as the initial shot comes in here. Now, yeah, he's offside there, and I think it's Dan Neil actually steps back in, and you know, the linesman could easily have had a little look across and seen that Dan's back in, but it's a good call and it is offside. And there's Mayenda again. He picks up a loose ball, sets it for Patrick. You see what Patrick's looking for. He's trying to open himself up and set it into that far corner. Just doesn't set it far enough, and it's a comfortable one for the keeper. So we still had 2 or 3 opportunities on the counter-attack. And that was the game plan, of course. Once you go man down, you're away from home against a side who are fighting to get into the playoffs. And generally, throughout the first half, especially for me, we sort of seen them out really well and frustrated them. Second half, we didn't look after the ball as well. We'll get onto the 2 goals which we actually conceded, and I wouldn't say they've cut us open with some good play. Just keep your eye. I think it's Enzo with the first one, which we'll have a look at now. Ball goes out wide, and then as it crossed in here now, I think it comes into Enzo, edge of the box. There now, secure it. Look, gives it away to the centre back, and we said it first half. He had one shot, didn't he, from distance? Rob Dickey blazed it well over. But that one there from this angle, it's a lovely finish, isn't it? Give credit to the centre backs union. Yeah, lovely finish. No chance for Anthony Patterson. He just has to watch and hope it goes past his post, but it doesn't. It's a lovely finish, and then they're back on level terms. And then you're thinking it's going to be a long, well, whatever was left remainder of that first half an hour plus. They didn't really carve us open too many
you can't
times,
remember too many times Anthony Patterson in particular being troubled on many occasions, can you really?
No.
He pulled off a couple of good saves overall, but the back defensive line did the jobs, didn't they? And they were putting their bodies on the line as well.
Yeah, and they did. I've been in that situation. You actually enjoy it really, because that's what you're paid to do really, and keep the ball out the back of the net and throw your body in, heading balls, and hopefully your keeper behind you can make 1 or 2 good saves as well. And the longer that it was going on, again, they were frustrated. You could feel it in Ashton Gate. Obviously, we were back here doing the comms, but you could hear the atmosphere, and they were thinking, they're obviously keeping an eye on results elsewhere. I think Coventry, obviously, and Middlesbrough looking to get results to put pressure on them as well. But they did have sort of 1 or 2 half chances as well. It was that there getting back. It's Hield. Yeah, it does well. She just gets back on the line, maybe just going past the post, but does his defensive duties well. Just set pieces. I remember mentioning it as well. For all the play that. Set pieces, we've got to do better as well. Too many first contacts for opposition, not just this game, but others recently as well, where we've got to do a little bit better. And this is the second one now, but it's matching runs. You see there, he's drifted in, nobody's gone with him, and then Job's off the bench, heavy touch, gets away from him, and then bang, balls in. Yeah, McCrory steps onto it, balls in the back of that. But it's just the 11 Mehmeti there. Somebody's got to see that get across. Whether it's Job or is it Chris Mepham in the nearest post space area.
And then McCrory's run as well goes unchallenged. And
then, just see Job. I think he's trying to, I wasn't sure at first if he's just trying to drop it off to somebody, but I think it just pops off his boot. Heavy touch. And again, look there. And then bang, steps onto it. And that's the difference. So they haven't really cut us open with some good silky play. It's really a couple of loose touches from our point of view. And then we had 1 or 2 later on where maybe half chances at best. But it's back-to-back defeats. So hopefully we can try and get going again this afternoon against Blackburn. Yeah,
there's loads of weird psychology takes being put online about this particular game, Danny, and they've said, does this, if we were to play Bristol City in the playoffs, does that lead them into a kind of false sense of pole position, essentially, over the side? Because they didn't really get a true reflection of Sunderland, did they?
No, they never. Well, we started really well. Say 11v11, we started well, and then obviously Trey gets sent off 6 minutes into the game. So, and then naturally, just what happens.
And it probably wasn't our first choice 11 either.
No, there's probably 7 or 8 in there. There's 1 or 2. Maybe Mundell if he comes back in, if he's going to be fit, and a couple of others you'd maybe look at. Obviously, Joe was on the bench as well, but it's not far off. But yeah. From the lads that were out there, you wanted to see a little bit more now, and obviously it's hard to gauge off that. I've heard 1 or 2 saying I'd fancy us against Bristol City over 2 games, but from their point of view, it was hard for them to break it down. We've seen it. How many times have we seen it here at the stadium where teams come and sit deep, and it's hard, and the crowd get frustrated, and it becomes a little bit pedestrian out there. And that was the case for Bristol City there. Yep. We were 9-10 bodies the edge of our box and saying, can you break us down? And they really struggled, and you could hear the crowd getting on their backs. But 11v11, it'll be a different game down there. I don't tend to go off, former results, and Rob's waiting to come out. I know we go over Coventry is your prime example. How many fans I've spoke to and they say, I hope we don't get Coventry in the playoffs. The record's not great against them. As a player, I don't think these lads will look at it that much. Yes, we got beat there 3-0. If anything, you want to try and put that right. You think, what a poor performance we put in down at Coventry. I hope we get them in the playoffs, then we can put that right as well and show them that, we're not. You shouldn't fear Coventry. We shouldn't fear anyone because. Look where we're sat in the playoffs. Yes, more than likely it's going to be Sheffield United, but the teams below us have been 10, 15 points below us for the majority of the last sort of 2 months or so, haven't they? So, when we turn up, when we're at it, when we've got our strongest so-called 11 out there, we can more than match anyone.
Okay then, we've probably got a little minute or so to have a quick look at Blackburn Rovers then before we hit our first ad break, and then we bring in our guest, who is of course Rob Mason. People are starting to make their way into the ground. Blackburn Rovers come into this game in 10th They were right amongst it until quite recently. However, they have won their last 2, including a big win on Friday against Millwall. Just the one change in the 11 for them.
Yeah, it's been a strange one. Obviously, John Eustace decided to jump ship, went to Derby, didn't he? And then Valerian Ismail come in.
Out the frying pan for John Eustace.
And it's been tough. He's won 2 of his last 10, and those 2 wins are the last 2 games. So they had a good win at home against Millwall, 4-1 the other day. So they'll be coming here full of confidence. Again, people will say it's a bit of a dead rubber. You're looking at it where obviously playoffs there, not really going to go in. But they'll come here and play with freedom, Blackburn. I expect that they'll come here confidence, 2 wins on the bounce. And they want to finish the season strong under a relatively new manager, try and impress him going into next season as well. And obviously some of these boys will be playing for contracts, so there's a lot of things come into it as well. But as you say, that one change, Coley Rudrow coming in there for Todd Cantwell, dropping out of the squad today, so maybe picked up an injury or suspension, I'm not too sure. But that's the one change for them this afternoon. And Tronstad's the one, his first 2 goals of the season against Millwall on when was it, Saturday?
Yeah,
Friday.
It was, Friday.
Good Friday, yeah.
Yeah, we're all confused here. We are not confused, though, about kick-off this afternoon. 3 p.m. kick-off here on SAFC Live. You can join us for the full game around the world if you get your match day streaming passes right now at safc.com. When we come back, we'll be speaking to our friend and club historian, Rob Mason. We'll see you soon. Hey, hello there. Welcome back to SAFC Live. We are here at the Stadium of Light, 3 p.m. kickoff here on Bank Holiday Monday. And it's been a busy Easter period for Sunderland. Of course, we had the defeat on Friday, which we've been going through. Rob, a different test this afternoon against Blackburn Rovers. they aren't mathematically out of the chase for playoffs, but their fans will probably feel, if we throw up the league table, that their chance has gone away for them.
Yeah, look, they've got a mathematical chance, and so from their point of view, they've got everything to play. A bit like when Millwall came here recently. Millwall had everything to play for. They got beat, but then they've been on a decent run until they got thrashed by Blackburn the other day. Looking at that league table there, Blackburn, as you can see, 59 points. They're chasing a 7-point gap to Coventry. It's not going to happen for them, is it? It's going to take something of a miracle for them to get in the playoffs. However, while there's a mathematical chance, especially as they're filled with confidence after 2 very good results that's come after a bad run for Blackburn, they will be thinking, well, let's at least go for it. They can throw caution to the wind. They can go for the 3 points. And at the very least, they'll be wanting to finish the season on a high, thinking if we can finish with 4 or 5 wins out of the last few games, that sets us off with a bit of momentum for the start of next season. So there's everything to play for from Blackburn's point of view, but, you know, unless there's several magic wands going to be waved in their direction, they aren't going to be a potential opposition for us in the playoffs.
Yeah, and Sunderland, they're cemented in 4th position. Bristol City, of course, who we played on Friday, just beneath us on 67 points. Now, there's this whole argument, which we've already touched upon earlier with myself and Danny, Rob. It's this momentum versus personnel game time, and it's about tackling the playoffs as a different beast, which seems to be the approach from the coaching staff.
Absolutely. Look, as you say, there's 2 ways of looking at it. You can go into it thinking we've got to be winning, playing your best team, playing your best 11 to try and get those results. But then the opposite point of view is to take the view that Regis Lebris has taken, which is to think I'm going to protect players, I'm going to rest people, I'm going to make sure my best players are as rested and as fully fit as they can be if they're carrying knocks before the end of, when the real games come around. By the real games, I mean the games that count, the playoff games. It'll split opinion within the stadium. Nobody's going to be happy if we play poorly today. Nobody's going to be happy if we lose again today. But believe you me, nobody's going to be happy if we were to win these next 3 games and then fail to turn up in the playoffs because players are shattered. So there's two ways of looking at it. There's more changes in the team today than I anticipated. I think there's more changes in the team than most people anticipated. But we'll see. I mean, to some extent, you might say there's some round pegs in square holes this afternoon, but also there's some serious opportunities for players. Alexic, for instance, who looks like he's going to play on the right today, didn't have a good time when he played on the right recently.
Let's
but
he's got another. We're discussing this, Rob, because people will be joining us from around the world as well. And the headline, Danny, is 7 changes, which Rob's alluding to there. And then, in some cases, there is square pegs in round holes, isn't there?
Yeah, it's trying to get the balance now, as you say. If you're looking at that, there's probably 4 sort of who you'd say are perhaps nailed on for the playoffs. Isidore and Mayenda sort of balancing between them 2. They're fighting for that shirt, really, if we go with that formation. I think Job's coming back in. Obviously, he's missed a couple of games, bit of game time against Bristol City. But the rest there, it's almost like, we played 3 days ago. Let's give some of these boys a less difficult shift and see a lot of the ball, having to work hard off the ball. So see it as a free hit and an opportunity for some of these boys to get some game time and try and impress. Not
forgetting that, as well as the fact they just played on Friday, most of those lads played on Friday for 83 minutes with 10 men. So, they put a lot in there. It's another reason to rest people. But yes, looking at that lineup now, you would think, when the playoffs come around, you'd expect, as long as we don't have any further injuries, goodness forbid that, you would expect the goalkeeper, the 2 centre-backs and Job to be nailed on starters. Toss up between Isidore and Mayenda. Other than that, you would expect those other lads probably will not be in the starting lineup in the playoffs. On the other hand, if they were to like to play out the skins this afternoon and score a couple of goals and keep their place and do well against Oxford and QPR, they could play themselves into that team. But realistically, 4, maybe 4.5 with Isidore are going to start the playoffs.
Tommy Watson's a key one as well, obviously. Listen, he didn't have a great game on Bristol. Everyone would probably agree on that. It's an opportunity for him, and I know it's sort of a little bit of friction with obviously what's happened, and he's moving on. But it's still an opportunity for him. These next 3, he's back out there this afternoon. He's back in front of our home fans as well. You want to try and put that right.
Danny, if Tommy Watson's last game was last Friday, he would go out on a low because he didn't have a good game. Probably the poorest game he's had for the first team. We've not got to forget that he's coming back from a recent injury.
Of course.
But he certainly didn't have a good game. He didn't see much of the ball. He didn't appear to go looking for the ball too much. But he's in front of his home fans this afternoon. It's his opportunity to come and show, actually, this is what I'm about. Players can come back from being unpopular with fans. There's a classic example yesterday at the Leicester-Liverpool game when Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's had quite a lot of flack from Liverpool fans recently, comes off the bench, sticks in the only goal of the game, and then is taking the applause from the fans at the end of the game. Football changes quicker than politics. They say a week's a long time in politics. Well, 2 or 3 days is a long time in football.
Yeah, exactly.
And so if Tommy Watson wants to play well this afternoon, score a goal, set one up, we win 2-0, 2-1, everybody will go home and they'll have forgotten about Friday. It'll be what a great player Tommy Watson is. That ball is literally in his court for him to come and do that. He can't afford to have another performance like he had on Friday. Yeah, let's have a quick look at Blackburn Rovers then. Sunderland's opposition today. One change in the 11 for them. And it's Cauley Woodrow who comes in, Danny. He's on loan from Luton.
Luton, isn't he? Yeah, he's sort of in and out of Luton, really. I think at Championship level, he's generally been pretty decent over the years. But yeah, obviously not too many changes. Say there, they had a good result the other day, 4-1. Interesting goals come from 2 of the defenders. Hyam popped up with one in Britton, who's getting a few rave reviews. The right full-back, Callum Britton, as well. And Tronstad, as I just mentioned there, with his only 2 goals of the season so far. So goals from different departments. But yeah, what do you expect? To come play with some freedom this afternoon. Obviously, manager came in February time, didn't he? So, as I said there with Rob, people look at it. I think the playoffs are gone for them, of course, unless there's a miracle. Too many teams ahead of them to drop points. But they're playing to try and impress the coaching staff. Obviously, Dean Whitehead there as well. He's been around with this manager in his last couple of jobs, but might be contracts up for grabs, as I was saying there. And you're always trying to, you want to impress, finish the season strong, maybe a new contract on the table, or if not, they maybe take us elsewhere, haven't a look.
Yeah, so, absolutely. And you mentioned Dom Hyam there. He's a player who's generally done well against us in recent years. He's a decent, strong, experienced player, and obviously alongside him, Danny Bath. We all know what he can do from when he was at Sunderland. Indeed, he was Player of the Season at Sunderland, wasn't he? Too, whatever amount of years it was ago. And of course, noticeably another ex-Sunderland loan player, at least, on the bench in Dion Sanderson. Yeah, whose career hasn't really kicked on as you'd expect. No. However, he did get that move to his hometown club as well, didn't he? And probably will be playing Championship football regardless next season because of what they're doing as well. Also, keep an eye on Tyrese Dolan and Yoki Ohashi as well, who's a top goal scorer. Generally speaking about Blackburn, though, Rob, obviously a big, old, traditional Lancashire football side, won the Premier League when... in that kind of era when it was still possible for a local businessman to take their team to the top. Well, Jack Walker came in and spent millions. He signed some fella called Alan Shearer from Southampton for what I think was a record fee of something like £3.6 million when they signed him. And of course, they had the SAS of Shearer and Sutton up front that year that they beat Manchester United to the title. I think it was 1996. It was, if you like, a one-man dream. The local man who came back and pushed millions upon millions into the football club, and it paid off. These days, millions and millions into a football club in the Premier League doesn't make much difference. You're talking about billions, as at Manchester United start to make a difference. So, unless you happen to be the town that Elon Musk comes from, and I have to say, I wouldn't particularly want Tesla FC. I wouldn't particularly want Elon Musk in charge of Sunderland. Thank you very much, money or no money. But unless you've got that kind of money to come into a football club as a single owner at Premier League level, you really can't make that's kind of significant difference that you take a provincial team like Blackburn and take them to actually be able to lift the Premier League. That's how football's moved on financially. Having said that as well, though, they have got... You've got to feel for their fans. They've had their frustrations with their current owners for a long time now, so much so that they've overseen 2 relegations. They haven't shown a promotion, though, but most of the time, the former Premier League champions... They've been having a rough time of it, They have had a very rough time. They've had, a lot of massively unpopular feedback, if you like, from the fans to the owners at Blackburn Rovers. It's not a well-supported club. I know there's a lot of clubs in that area, but you look at Blackburn's attendances, and generally they're pretty well supported when they won the Premier League. They've never been particularly well supported, but nonetheless, those people who do support them, those people who've travelled up from Blackburn and will be in the North Stand this afternoon cheering on their team, they will support their team as passionately as anybody. There might not be as many of them as the say supporters of Sunderland, but those supporters who do support Blackburn have had every reason to be grumbling about the way their team's been run, or so it would appear from the outside, in many of their recent years. And they will have ambitions. Obviously this season looks like it's beyond them, but they will still hold ambitions as former Premier League winners of getting back into the Premier League and holding their own in the Premier League, because with all due respect, if teams like Brighton, Bournemouth and Brentford can be successful teams in the Premier League, there's no reason why Blackburn couldn't be, and there's absolutely no reason why Sunderland couldn't be. And hopefully we can get into the Premier League this year, because while we're talking at the moment about 7 changes today, ultimately it doesn't really matter, if we win or we lose today. When it comes round to the playoffs, the first leg I think on May the 9th or whenever it is, and the second leg almost certainly looks like it's going to be here on May the 13th. That night, rest assured, the strongest team available will be out there. The crowd will be up for it. Everybody will be pushed in the same direction, and we need to make those games count. If we make today's game count and we have a good performance and a good result, everybody will go away a lot happier. If we're poor and we get beat, everybody's going to be full of doom and gloom. But let's face facts, when the real stuff comes round, this is just a rehearsal.
Yeah, 7 years ago today, Rob, the club were confirmed to be relegated from the Championship into the third division, which I think was only the second time in their history.
Indeed, and last time, I hope.
Yes, 7 years ago to the day, though, we find ourselves in a position now where, for a couple of weeks now, it's been guaranteed that Sunderland will be in a playoff position, and we've had fourth place pretty much summed up for over a couple of months, really, as well. It shows the club has been spun around completely. It hasn't been pretty at times, but we're definitely on the right trajectory right now.
It took us far too long to get out of League One. We weren't helped by the COVID season when we didn't even get a chance in the playoffs when we were right on the cusp of the promotion race. Obviously, we lost in a playoff final. But the previous time we got relegated in the mid-80s, we went and won that league straight away, and that's what we should have done this time. It took us 4 years to get out of League One. Probably the 4 most depressing seasons in the history of Sunderland Football Club. What an awful time it was. But we've waved bye-bye to that now. Of course, we did brilliantly to get into the playoffs the first year we were up, and I think we would have come through the playoffs, but for the massive amount of injuries we had in the playoffs, which comes back to why Regis Libris is now taking the attitude that he does. He's looked and he's seen how we were struggling for numbers in the playoffs last time. And then last year, of course, it was a disappointing season, and we fell away badly in the second half of the season. This season, we've excelled all expectations from what anybody had before we kicked off that first game at Cardiff City. Who would have thought then that, I mean, it was 3 games to go now, but with 5 games to go before we started our last home game against Swansea, we were already mathematically guaranteed a playoff place. That's tremendous. So this season's been a huge improvement, and everybody concerned's got to take a big pat on the back for that. But ultimately, it's not going to count for very much if we don't come through the playoffs. And the playoffs just gives you a chance, a 1 in 4 chance of going up. But it's as big a chance as anybody else has got. We've got to take it. I admire Regis Libris. He's sticking to his guns. Whether people agree with him or not, he's sticking to his guns. He's got his approach. Let's back him. Let's get behind him. And let's make sure that when the games come around, just like the match announcer behind us now is shouting, "Away the lads," that there's 46, 47,000 people in the ground, giving it hell to chant "Away the lads" and get behind them and get us to Wembley, and then have another great day at Wembley like we did the last time we were in a playoff final. Very true,
very true. We will leave things there as the Lighthouse foghorn sounds around the Stadium of Light. It's not long to go till kick-off. You can get your matchday streaming passes right now at safc.com. We'll be back very soon.
Sport, it's not just a game. It's in your DNA. Like us, you live and breathe every moment. You dissect, navigate, and analyze. At SpreadX, we bring you a world of betting, where flexibility and precision are at your fingertips. With real-time analysis across all devices, wherever you are. Enjoy sports betting